pie crust, we're going to use 1 cup of flour and a half teaspoon of salt and 7 tablespoons of shortening. I use butter flavored Crisco. And I'm just going to put in about a half of a tablespoon of sugar. Just give it a little bit of sweetness. And now we're going to blend it a little bit. This is the Pampered Chef Pastry Blender. It works really nicely. Just getting that shortening mixed in with the dry ingredients. If you don't have a pastry blender, you can use a fork or a couple forks or 2 sharp knives. Matt is going to demonstrate that. Alright, so we have 1 egg beaten, and we're going to add a 1/4 tablespoon of vinegar. And then we're going to add a 1/4 cup of cold water. Now I'm just using cold water from the tap because I can get it pretty cold. If not, you might want to just put some water in a cup with some ice and just make sure that that is well blended. I'm using a little egg beater here. Get that all mixed together with the egg. We're just going to mix that into our dry ingredients. And be sure to mix it well. I'm going to stir that all in. Make sure all the dry ingredients are well coated with the wet ingredients. If while you're mixing it, it seems like it's still a little too wet, too sticky, just get a little bit more flour and sprinkle it on top. Make sure just do a little bit at a time because you can always add more, but we don't want it to get too dry. So now we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour onto our surface and get this dough ready to knead. So just kind of roll it around back and forth, knead it, make sure it's in a good position. Don't you wish that you had magic rolling pins that appeared out of nowhere? So once we have it in a nice shape, we're going to start in the center and roll out towards the sides. What you're wanting to do is make sure that it's even, that the thickness of the crust is even all the way across. So you're just making smooth strokes from the center and out in every direction. Now really you only need to make this as big as your pie pan. So this would probably be about good. But another tool that I have that I really like is this, I don't know what it's called. Matt's grandma got it for me for a present, but it's super nice for rolling out dough. It's really good, like especially if you want to do a pizza dough or something like that, pizza crust that's quite a bit bigger, or if you have a deep dish pie pan and you just need your crust to be a little bit bigger, but for whatever size you need. Mine's just, I think, a standard 9-inch pie pan, but this just makes it super easy to kind of roll it out and get it all one like level of thickness and that it's a perfect circle. Just roll it all smooth. So just make sure you do put a little bit of flour on the top and bottom. And if you want to put a little water under the plastic underneath, that definitely helps to keep it in place. So the really nice thing about this is being able to transfer it to the pie pan, because instead of having to pick it up and maneuver it, you can just flip it over right on top. So that makes it really nice. As you can see, it's a little bit sticky. I probably should have put a little bit more flour, especially around the edges, but it's all good. Once you have that off, we're just gonna make sure that the crust is filling the bottom, is close and just tucked in on all around. We don't want any air bubbles, or like I said, you want it to be even all the way around. Then we're just going to take a butter knife and cut around the outside edge of the pie plate. If you want to do something fancy, make some fluted edges, anything like that, you absolutely can. Just use the excess dough. Or if you just like a thicker edge, you know, you can just put that dough back up around the edge of the pie. And that is pretty easily done. But for this, we're just going to do this. Super easy. And voila! Now for the pie filling, we're going to get some lemon zest. So just clean your lemon well and use a fine grater. This one's from Pampered Chef, obviously. And you're just going to grate along the outside of the lemon peel. And we need about a half a teaspoon for this. Honestly, if you use a little more, it's probably fine. It's delicious. And then we're going to use a tablespoon of lemon juice. I juiced my own, but you can just use some from the bottle, whatever you like best. And then a half teaspoon of almond extract. I love this stuff. Oh, it smells so good. Now we're going to mix those wet ingredients. Make sure that zest gets really mixed through to all the cherries. This is 4 cups of tart cherries. You can find these frozen or in a can. Make sure they're pitted. Alright, now we're going to mix 1 cup of sugar with a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. I'm just going to make sure that is mixed together well. You could use a spoon or a whisk. And then we're just going to coat the cherry mixture with this dry mixture. So I did about a half and stirred that in, and then just keep coating it with the rest of the dry mixture. So yummy. And then we're just going to pour it into our crust. Make sure it's all smoothed out, even, and now we're going to make our streusel. So this is 3/4 cup old-fashioned oats and a 1/4 teaspoon salt. Add a 1/2 cup packed brown sugar and 1/3 cup melted butter. Now the oats really are important. You need to make sure that it says old-fashioned oats, not the quick oats, because that will cook it completely differently. So we're just going to make sure that's all stirred in, and then, oh yeah, we need a 1/2 cup of flour. It was being sneaky over there. So we're just going to mix those ingredients all together. So the thing that you really want is to make sure that the butter is all mixed around, and then the brown sugar is all crumbled and evenly distributed. Gonna get my hands in here a little bit and make sure all that brown sugar is mixed in really well. And then we're just gonna cover the pie. It's gonna be so good. Now this is gonna be cooked at 375 for about 40 to 55 minutes. So set a timer for 40 minutes and check it. The strudel, you want the streusel to look nice and browned and the edges of the crust. If you have a crust guard, or you can just put around some tin foil after 40 minutes if you still want it to cook a little bit longer. Just make sure that the edges of your crust don't get overdone. And